Is Cantor Nemi with us this morning? He can't always be, so that's so beautiful to have Cantor Nemi's.
Not here today.
He's not here today. Okay, but so I thought it was beautiful last night that what we had as the bookend of our Aleph class reading and showing off in such a beautiful way the reading of Psalm 1 in Hebrew and English, which is the very beginning of the book. Hold on, I have to close the door here. And then my other deep learning for this year, as I keep saying, is putting the sock in the door so the door doesn't keep going slamming back and forth with the wind. I've learned so much important Torah. Anyway, so to start last night with Psalm 1, which was, of course, how we began and how the book of Psalms begins. And then to end with Psalm 150 was just so gorgeous last night. And it really showed. I want to say a few words. And then what we're going to do to kind of end this section of this first year is we're going to actually read through Psalms 1 through 18, which we have studied as a group. We're going to read them all through in Hebrew and in English and just watch them pass by. And as we do that, for those of you who have been with us from the beginning, we're going to go back to the Sepharia, to our basic translation, so it's not often the translation that's the most inspiring. But I want you to see, can you remember where you were when we studied each psalm? Can you remember a thought you had? Can you remember what you wrote about? Can you remember what your reactions were? Or was there a learning you had that's been meaningful? And I want to repeat what I've said in any number of times, that the recitation of psalms has power. The study of them, like what we're doing with the deep study, is really important. And the recitation, even one just after another. And now that you're building up a library, so to speak, a reservoir, the layers and textures will become more meaningful. But even a psalm you do not yet understand, even just saying it, has some power to it. So there are a few things I want to say as introduction to this little exercise we're going to do. And with today, we're going to close this year of Psalms 1 through 18. And remember, we also studied Psalm 27 for a month. And with Rabbi Rapport over the summer, we studied the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat. And then starting tomorrow, Rabbi Rapport, for the next 5 sessions, will teach the Psalms of Hallel, which are Psalms, 113 to 118. There's some differences, but she'll go into that, I'm sure. Hallel is recited on all the different Jewish holidays, and it's part of the Pesach Seder in addition to being done in the morning service. And Hallel is quite different than some of the other Psalms in that it's all celebratory, exaltation, but Rabbi Rapport will study those with you. So we've actually studied more than just 1 through 18 because we've taken breaks. We actually looked at Psalm 23 for a day, but Psalm 1 through 18 has been the arc over which we've traveled with our various and wonderful digressions into history and linguistics and music and all the different places we've digressed. So I want to say one thing also about the class itself, and I want to encourage. We have some people who are very comfortable expressing themselves and writing or drawing, and we have some people who aren't. And I don't want there to become at all a hierarchy in the class that somehow those who are comfortable expressing themselves are at one level and those who are not are not. And I know for some people, even the personal sharings, and this might be radical, it's not their favorite part of the class. For some people, the study is the favorite part of the class, and not the personal exploration. So I just want to value all of you for whom the study is the primary and not the personal explorations, because every one of us is different. And every one of us has a different way of responding to text and to ideas and to spiritual direction and spiritual growth. So I just want to repeat that everyone who is here, part of the class today and part of our ongoing class, is welcome in the fullness of who you are. I want to encourage people who speak a lot to be aware of the footprint you have in the class and think, have other people had a chance to speak? I want those of you who haven't spoken and might be intimidated by it, I want you to think, wow, can I put myself out a little bit more than I usually do? I want each of us, part of spiritual maturing at any age, is to constantly be exploring where our strengths and where our weaknesses are and pushing ourselves a little bit. The degree can be very small. And if the degree to which we need to push ourselves is to do a little tzimtzum, to do a little pulling ourselves in to make space for others, that's a spiritual exercise. If our spiritual exercise is to push ourselves out just a little bit, out of our comfort zone, a tiny, tiny little bit, that's spiritual work. So I just want to encourage people as we begin year number 2 together, and that's what today is. Today is the beginning of year number 2. To really recognize that all of what you bring to this group is perfect, and we can all continue growing. Every single one of us can continue on this growth of our spiritual paths. I want people, to examine if you feel uncomfortable during a class, and some of you have come to talk to me or to Harold privately. Find where the discomfort is in a particular class and just sit with it. Be aware of it. If somebody says something that's kind of hits a what do you call that? Like a little hot spot, just be aware of it. There are things we have to learn from the places that cause us pain. That can be deep, deep, deep learning. And if we ask ourselves from experiences of discomfort, what can I learn from this moment, as opposed to how am I a victim in this moment, we will continue growing till the day we die. And that's a real challenge to all of us. It's a incredibly moving experience for me as a rabbi, and I said this briefly last night, and I'll repeat this right now in this way. I'm not smarter than anybody here. I am not the teacher because I am at all a different human being. I happen to have lived with and studied the Psalms, for over 40 years. So I have a lot of experience with this text. And so what I have to offer is the years of study, the years of living with it, the years of it. What's the word? What does wine do? Ripening, the years of the Psalms ripening in my soul. So that's what I have to offer all of you. But I don't have any more wisdom. I don't have any more ideas how to live a good life. I don't have any more ideas how to be a good human being than you do. And what's been so spectacularly moving is that all of you become teachers to me in the insights you have, in the pain you bring, in the ways you've responded to difficulties and joys in your life. And that is what I think is really powerful about this class. Everybody here is an expert. You might not be an expert in Hebrew. You might not be an expert in Psalms. Okay. I happen to be, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I have, a reasonable amount of knowledge of the Psalms. Not, as people have seen, I don't know everything by any means. But so what I can offer you is that. What you can offer each other and all of us is modeling what it is to be a serious adult learner and to be on this spiritual journey we're calling life and trying to figure it all out. And to be doing it in the middle of this pandemic, we started again, of course, we started last year when Trump was not just in power, in the height of his power in some ways, and dismantling every piece of this democracy, and the cruelty and inhumanity of him and the people he put into power was brutal. And I have to say, a year later, we're all relieved that we wake up in the morning without thinking, what was the tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning that's going to upset us today? However, we live in a very, very delicate balance. Trumpism has not gone away. And if we don't win the election in 2022 with a majority Democratic House and a majority Democratic Senate, we're going to go right back there. That's how serious a moment in history we're in. So to turn to the Psalms as a place of finding balance and security and challenge, both intellectually and emotionally, and then to watch how many of you who didn't know an aleph from a bet last year at this time have learned that. Some of you have heard me talk about, okay, I grew up knowing how to read Hebrew. So for me, that wasn't a challenge. However, it wasn't until I was 30 years old that I even knew who Beethoven was. So I look at those of you who grew up with music, I understand what it is to be an adult learner, because for me, I've always been drawn to classical music, but I was never exposed to it. I didn't know Beethoven from Mozart. And for those of you who grew up with classical music, that's like crazy, right? How could you not know the difference between Mozart and Beethoven? How could you not know the difference, right? How could you not know the difference, between Aaron Copland and Beethoven? Of course. And it took me doing what so many of you are doing, which is to very slowly, little footsteps in, being brave enough to say, try and take classes where the teachers were talking about things that, 80, 90% went over my head. A fugue. The first class I went to was a Bach class. That was a serious mistake. Oh my God. And it was not a 101 class. Try going to for your first class. It's like if you went to your first class in, Talmud before you learned how to read an aleph from a bet, right? Bach is not the place to start. And I was so overwhelmed. I had to do what many of you have done, to say, wow, I am really an idiot. I'm an adult. I'm a professional. I have a job. And I sat through a class where they were speaking English and maybe understood 2 or 3 words. I think many of you have experienced that, and the courage to be an adult learner, to say, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to find my level. And now when I grow up, I just want to be Adria Benjamin. I just worship at her feet. I want to be able to, and now, okay, now I can hear something and know whether it's Mozart or Beethoven. And that's been, some of you know the story. When I couldn't figure out how this music, which spoke so deeply to me, but I couldn't explain it. So I decided I would just start alphabetically. I didn't know how else to study music, right? And I was already a rabbi. I was already working full time. So I just started with the B's. Bach came first. That was a disaster. So then I went on to Beethoven, and that was in 1992. And 1990. I started this study in 1990. I'm still on Beethoven. It turns out you can stay with Beethoven a lot of years.
Beyonce is next.
I never heard of Beyonce till I met Randy. She's really into Beyonce, so.
Or Harry Belafonte. That's
Harry Belafonte, okay. So anyway, all of this is to encourage us to be the adult learners we have, and to know that wherever we are in life, there's stuff still to learn, and to be open. And this class has been such a model of that, and you all inspire me. And learning Torah is not about what level you're at. There is no such thing that God prefers somebody who's learning Torah at a very sophisticated level. What we care about is whether you dedicate yourself to learning, whatever level it is. Learning the Aleph Bet is as important as learning anything more. And that's why in the CBST Siddur, some of you know, let me grab a Siddur. Marcia knows this very well. I insisted that at the end of the book, we have in the end of the CBST Siddur, for those of you who have a copy at home, you can see it's on page 318, which is the very last page of the book, past the sources, past the index. Really, it's, at the very end of the book, page 318, because there's a famous Hasidic story that tells that the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you don't know the prayers. What it matters is if you're there with authenticity. And if you don't know the prayers, if you don't know Hebrew, even if you practice reading the Aleph Bet during a Friday night or a Shabbat service, God can put the letters together. You know, God doesn't need you to know everything. God needs you to really put your energy and your passion into creating a place of study. We Jews believe that study is a deep, deep form of being connected to the holy. All different kinds of study. So that's why in the Siddur we have the Aleph Bet. So if you can't read the Aleph Bet, maybe at the end of the service you'll be able to recognize an Aleph. How many people here have fit into this category who last year at this time could not read any Hebrew and have learned something this year? Wow, look at all these people raising their hands. How moving is that? How many people here who have taken a Hebrew class this year of our side, on any level of that we've been teaching Hebrew? Look at that. Pretty fantastic. We have right now over 100 people at CBST in Hebrew classes. So, and then we can see from the Norm Fisher, he doesn't read Hebrew at all. He doesn't speak Hebrew. He wrote his expressions of the Psalms based on looking at translations. So there's access in at all different points. You know, Adrienne Rich translated a lot of Yiddish poetry. She doesn't know a word of Yiddish. She knows Dutch, and Dutch is close to Yiddish in some ways, but she worked from translations. So even being a translator, sometimes it's a really, as we keep saying, is interpretation. So I just want to pause now before we do our read of these 18 Psalms to see if anybody wants to say anything at this moment. And I really want to hear from anybody who didn't contribute something to last night, whose voices we might not have heard last night, but who would like to be heard today, or have anything to say today.
Karen Kropp.
Hi. First, last night was just fantastic. I really, really loved seeing everyone's contributions. I was thinking about something you said at the beginning, Rabbi, about thinking back about where you were in the beginning of this process and where we are now. And I was just remembering how those first couple of months were so scary and so isolating, and how this class was this like connection to the world for an hour in the morning. And my connection to those Psalms in the beginning, the 1, 2, 3, even into 4, was very, very emotional. Whereas my connections now are more intellectual, as that feeling of isolation and fear about the world has kind of receded, and this became our everyday life for all these very many months. So I think there's been a real change in my own connection to what we're doing over time. And
beautiful.
Shep.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in addition to all the beautiful writings and art that we created, we also created a community, and that's really special amongst ourselves. That was the side benefit. We got a community out of it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shep.
Randy.
Piggybacking on what Shep said, it's amazing the way I got to know people. A lot of the people in this class I've seen for a few minutes here after Shabbat services, and the connection to this new community. We have our own Psalms community. I got to know you, Rabbi, on a different level, and so many people that I thought I knew, I really, really got to know. So that's a side benefit. I also want to say, even though I have a doctorate in psychology and applied behavior analysis, I didn't have the background, at least I thought, for this class. And even though I don't get everything, I am I would say that I started off as a kindergartner in a grad class. And now I'm in 5th grade.
That's a beautiful image, Randy. That's a beautiful image.
And just being part of this has really changed the outlook for this last year. It is my anchor. I see it's your anchor, Rabbi, and so many of my Psalm classmates. And I am so grateful for this year. And I look forward to continuing my Jewish study. In a way, I was blessed to be able to spend time and study. I never understood the idea of Jewish study. Just spending so many hours with the ancient text. And now I understand it, appreciate it, and I'm sorry I didn't become a rabbi. So say that.
You can you don't need to be a rabbi to be a student of Judaism.
Michael Goldstein?
Yeah, I'd like to express a minority experience. Um, I am so impressed with the people in the Psalms class who are able to identify with the Psalms on a personal basis and say how much it has meant to them personally because of their own reflections and their own insights into where they are spiritually. I am not that person. I am not able to reflect that way, and I'm in therapy to try and discover all of that. But I know the discipline of reading the Psalms has been very important to this class, and that's why I remain in it. Hopefully I'll learn more as we go, but as the rabbi knows in our previous conversations here in the class, to me it's all about doing the good. And I just see that repeated over and over in every psalm, and I don't get the nuance of how each psalm is different. To me, they're all saying the same thing.
And that's a very legitimate response, Michael. I love having you in the class.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
All
Jeremy
right.
Lawrence. Jeremy Lawrence has his hand up. Jeremy? Are you there? Jeremy? Hi.
I want to say that I was very humbled by last night. I thought it was, as I am frequently during class, listening to people's offerings. The eclecticism of the experiences that people brought was remarkable. I started putting together my Psalms from 1 on. There's been a break in my neck, amongst other things. But in putting them together in Psalm order, it's been fascinating to watch my own growth during this period of time, and what I thought was clever politically or clever ideologically when I was writing Psalms 1 through 10 has clearly changed now that we're in a different era.
Interesting.
And I'm just kind of fascinated by watching that growth.
Wow.
Beautiful. That is a wonderful exercise to do, Jeremy. Thanks for pointing that out for those of you to look back on your own collection, and I hope you're all keeping the collections. And by the way, Harold, Sherry, and Annika did an amazing job of producing. I hope everybody printed out the program from last night to read the beautiful expressions of gratitude, and also to have the texts of those things that were read last night. Let's keep going.
Ora.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is clearly the what I've discovered about myself is how much internal wrestling with God there is. You know, it's kind of like if I don't think about it, it's all okay. But once I start to read and think about what it's saying, it's a real struggle for me. I think my Psalm 10, which was the first one I ever wrote, never saw the light of day, and it's quite angry. So at some point it might be interesting to look at. But I think my work for this coming year is to actually also explore my reticence to speak, because it's not like I don't have anything to say, and that when I say something, it's usually meaningful. So the question for me is why the withholding?
Yep.
So that's my work for the year.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing where it leads you.
Rabbi, if I could talk for just a second, I'm realizing I did quite a bit of travel over the summer, safely, masked, whatever, but I took my book with me, and different Psalms bring back to me where I read them. Sitting by a waterfall in North Carolina, sitting in the garden in Martha's Vineyard, sitting in a meadow in Fisher's Island, in my room overlooking the ocean in Maine, by a lake in Wisconsin, because I put it in my backpack or my pocket, and I didn't go anywhere without my little Tehillim. And when I had a quiet moment, I would just pull it out and read a psalm, you know, and though each of those psalms brings back to me where I was when I first read it. And I'm realizing that a lot of it was by the water. And water is so important in Psalms. And I somehow felt when I was looking over water, I wanted to read Psalms.
That's beautiful. And we had such a beautiful image, Harold, that you suggested for the advertising or the publicity for the last night's event, which was that image of the woods and a flowing stream, which was very beautiful. All right, let's take a few more and then we'll do the reading, okay?
Judy Hollander?
Yes, I have started a project, and I have interviewed about 15 people, and I was going to wait until the second semester to put the sign-up sheet for people to talk, but I can say that, and I haven't written it into anything that's publishable at this point, but I'm looking at it to get something out, because I think, but basically what you're saying today, what everyone is saying, a lot of people are saying the major theme for almost everybody was the community, was both community and anchor.
Yeah.
These are probably two different things. I'll look at it a little more, but I will put up a sign-up sheet for this, maybe in a week or two, maybe I can start with some more interviews. And then these interviews are there, whatever I do with the stuff, these interviews can be, you can have them, or we can put them someplace, but it's very interesting of people talking about what the Psalm class and maybe some other things that people are doing during the pandemic mean to them. So
beautiful.
Let's see, who's next here? Lori Krogman.
Can you hear me? It's the first
Yes.
time I'm using these headphones because I have a house full of kids here. The Psalms next week marks the year that my sister died, and we still have not had a Shiva or a gathering or a memorial. So this class, I could almost cry. I can't tell you how much it's meant to me. It's been you've been my Shiva. You've been my way of understanding this horrible tragedy in a very different way. And I just can't tell you enough how significant and meaningful this has been for me. So I just wanted to say that.
Beautiful. And your Psalms reflecting your relationship with her are so powerful, Lori.
Thank you.
Sorry, Lori Siegel. Lori Siegel, are you here to unmute yourself?
I am, sorry. I found last night to be unbelievable. The depth of the intellectual and emotional involvement from all the students was mind-blowing. I was really, really impressed, and I hope to join that cadre at some point. I also have a very close friend who is Christian. I've been encouraging her to join the class. She said, "I'm not Jewish." I said, "It doesn't make any difference." So I will keep encouraging her. I love the class. I'm glad I'm part of it. Thank you.
Adria Benjamin.
Thank you. Thank you again, Harold and Annika and Sherry and everybody. It's really extraordinary. But one thing I want to say, Rabbi, even though you think you're only up to Beethoven, which I know is not true, I know you've expanded. Like a great conductor, like a Menetzeach, you have supplied vision and the space for all of us to really do our best work, which is really extraordinary because that's what really defines an orchestra. And
wow.
When
beautiful.
I find my inspiration not only from the conductor but the person I'm sitting with, or if I look across the stage at a friend, we share a moment visually, and even we're able to do this even in this Zoom box environment, and everybody in their own way, it's been remarkable, is a Menetzeach, because anytime anybody speaks, shows a work of art, shares a psalm, shares a personal experience, it just enriches the vision and the space that you have provided for us. So this is, this is the definition of great teaching, great community, great participation, great support, great understanding. And if I didn't have this, I don't know what this year would have been like.
Yeah.
Just would have been a total mess. So I'm very grateful to everybody. Thank you. And to you, Rabbi, and Harold, and Annika,
Adria,
and
that's an
Sherry.
image that will stay with me. That's a really, really beautiful image. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Sue Rosansky, and then maybe go to our
Then we'll
reading.
do the reading. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say in terms of how we felt a year ago, yesterday morning when you played the intro of Judy Ribnick singing from the first class, it just brought me right back to exactly to the fear that I felt then.
Yep.
And again, hearing it last night, it really was amazing, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, Sue. I totally agree. And that was great to have her participation last night.
Yeah.
And it really was her idea to start with the music and then look what that little idea had in
Right.
terms of where we then went, which is just another example of one person can start a ripple and you don't know where it ends up. And your job isn't to worry about where things will end up. Your job is to start.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Harold, shall we go through what we're going to do now is the exercise. I'm going to ask Yael Bat Chaba if she'd be willing to read all the Hebrew, because I want there to be a
Sure.
rhythm now. We're going to do all the Hebrew of each of Psalm 1, then all the English, and then go psalm by psalm we're not going to stop and discuss them, but just to go from where we were last year, starting with Psalm 1 to the end of Psalm 18. Harold, would you be willing to read the English?
Yes, thank you. That would be
I'd
great
love to
honor.
honor you with this. And so as we go through, remember where you were last year at this time. If you joined the class at a particular psalm, think of that and just imagine this past year going from last March 16th, 2020 to this March 17th, 2021. So we'll do Hebrew first, Yael, and then Harold will do the whole English of each psalm.
אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעצת רשעים, ובדרך חטאים לא עמד, ובמושב ליצים לא ישב. כי אם בתורת אדוני חפצו, ובתורתו יהגה יומם ולילה. והיה כעץ שתול על פלגי מים, אשר פריו ייתן בעיתו, ועלהו לא ייבול, וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. לא כן הרשעים, כי אם כמוץ אשר תדפנו רוח. על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט, וחטאים בעדת צדיקים. כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים, ודרך רשעים תאבד.
Happy is the man who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, or taken the path of sinners, or joined the company of the insolent. Rather, the teaching of the Lord is his delight, and he studies that teaching day and night. He is like a tree planted beside streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, whose foliage never fades, and whatever it produces thrives. Not so the wicked, rather, they are like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore, the wicked will not survive judgment, nor will sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord cherishes the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed.
למה רגשו גויים ולאומים יהגו ריק? יתייצבו מלכי ארץ ורוזנים נוסדו יחד על אדוני ועל משיחו. ננתקה את מסורתמו ונשליכה ממנו אבותמו. יושב בשמיים ישחק, אדוני ילעג למו. אז ידבר אלמו באפו, ובחרונו יבהלמו. ואני נסחתי מלכי, על ציון הר קודשי אספרה, אל חוק אדוני, אמר אלי, בני אתה, אני היום ילידתיך. שאל ממני ואתנה גויים נחלתך, ואחוזתך אפסי ארץ. תרועם בשבט ברזל, ככלי יוצר תנפצם. ועתה מלכים השכילו, יבשרו שופטי ארץ. עבדו את אדוני ביראה וגילו ברעדה. נשקו בר פן יענף, ותאבדו דרך, כי יבער כמעט אפו, אשרי כל חוסי בו.
Why do nations assemble and peoples plot vain things? Kings of the earth take their stand and regents intrigue together against the Lord and against his anointed. Let us break the cords of their yoke, shake off their ropes from us. He who is enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord mocks at them. Then he speaks to them in anger, terrifying them in his rage. But I have installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. Let me tell of the decree. The Lord said to me, you are my son, I have fathered you this day. Ask it of me, and I will make the nations your domain, your estate, the limits of the earth. You can smash them with an iron mace, shatter them like a potter's ware. And now, O kings, be prudent, accept discipline, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord in awe, tremble with fright, pay homage in good faith, lest he be angered, and your way be doomed in the mere flash of his anger. Happy are all who take refuge in him.
מזמור לדוד בבורכו מפני אבשלום בנו. אדוני, מה רבו צרי, רבים קמים עלי. רבים אומרים לנפשי, אין ישועתה לו ואלוהים סלע. ואתה, אדוני, מגן בעדי, כבודי ומרים ראשי. קולי אל אדוני אקרא ויענני סלע. אני שכבתי ואישנה, הקיצותי, כי אדוני ישמחני. לא אירא מרבבות עם אשר סביב שתו עלי. קומה אדוני, הושיעני אלוהי, כי הכית את כל אויבי לחי, שיני רשעים שיברת. לאדוני הישועה על עמך ברכתך סלע.
A psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom. O Lord, my foes are many. Many are those who attack me. Many say of me, there is no deliverance for him through God. Selah. But you, O Lord, are a shield about me, my glory, he who holds my head high. I cry aloud to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain, Selah. I lie down and sleep and wake again, for the Lord sustains me. I have no fear of the myriad forces arrayed against me on every side. Rise, O Lord, deliver me, O my God, for you slap all my enemies in the face. You break the teeth of the wicked. Deliverance is the Lord's. Your blessing be upon your people. Selah.
למנצח בנגינות מזמור לדוד. בקוראי ענני אלוהי צדקי, בצר הרחבת לי, חנני ושמע תפילתי. בני איש, עד מכבודי לכלימה תאהבון ריק, תבקשו חזב סלע. ודעו כי הפלא אדוני חסיד לו, אדוני ישמע בקוראי אליו. רגזו ואל תחטאו, אמרו בלבבכם על משכבכם ודומו סלע. זבחו זבחי צדק וביטחו אל אדוני. רבים אומרים, מי יראנו טוב, נשא עלינו אור פניך, אדוני. נתת שמחה בליבי, מאת דגנם וכראשם רבו. בשלום יחדיו אשכבה, ואישן, כי אתה, אדוני, לבדד, לבטח תושיבני.
For the leader, with instrumental music, a psalm of David. Answer me when I call, O God, my vindicator. You freed me from distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. You men, how long will my glory be mocked? Will you love illusions, have recourse to frauds? Selah. Know that the Lord singles out the faithful for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. So tremble and sin no more. Ponder it on your bed and sigh. Offer sacrifices in righteousness and trust in the Lord. Many say, oh, for good days. Bestow your favor on us, O Lord. You put joy into my heart when their grain and wine show increase. Safe and sound I lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, keep me secure.
למנצח אל הנחילות מזמור לדוד. אומרי האזינה אדוני, בינה הגיגי. הקשיבה לקולי, שבעי מלכי ואלוהי, כי אליך אתפלל. אדוני בוקר תשמע קולי, בוקר אערך לך ואצפה. כי לא אל חפץ רשע אתה, לא יגורך רע, לא יתייצבו הוללים לנגד עיניך, שנאת כל פועלי אבן. תאבד דוברי כזב איש דמים ומרמה יתעב אדוני. ואני ברוב חסדך אבוא ביתך, אשתחווה אל היכל קודשך ביראתך. אדוני, נחני בצדקתך למען צורריי, הושר לפני דרכך. כי אין בפיהו נכונה קרבם אבות, קבר פתוח גרונם, לשונם יחליקון. האשימם אלוהים יפלו ממועצותיהם ברוב פשעיהם הדיחמו, כי מרו בך. וישמחו כל חוסי בך לעולם ירננו, ותסך עלינו ויעלצו בך אוהבי שמך. כי אתה תברך צדיק, אדוני, קצינה רצון תעטרנו.
For the leader on Nechilot, a psalm of David, give ear to my speech, O Lord, consider my utterance. Heed the sound of my cry, my King and God, for I pray to you. Hear my voice, O Lord, at daybreak. At daybreak I plead before you, and wait. For you are not a God who desires wickedness. Evil cannot abide with you. Wanton men cannot endure in your sight. You detest all evildoers. You doom those who speak lies. Murderous, deceitful men the Lord abhors. But I, through your abundant love, enter your house. I bow down in awe at your holy temple. O Lord, lead me along your righteous path because of my watchful foes. Make your way straight before me. For there is no sincerity on their lips. Their heart is filled with malice. Their throat is an open grave. Their tongue slippery. Condemn them, O Lord. Let them fall by their own devices. Cast them out for their many crimes, for they defy you. But let all who take refuge in you rejoice, ever jubilant as you shelter them, and let those who love your name exalt in you. For you surely bless the righteous man, O Lord, encompassing him with favor like a shield.
So I think we'll finish with 6 and ask all of us to do this for the during the rest of the day on our own, to recite the rest, so that on this beginning of year 2, we'll each have said Psalms 1 through 18 in the course of today. So let's finish with Psalm 6, and then we'll end for today.
למנצח בנגינות על השמינית, מזמור לדוד. אדוני, אל באפך תוכיחני, ואל בחמתך תייסרני. חנני אדוני כי אומלל אני, רפאני אדוני כי נבהלו עצמי. ונפשי נבהלה מאוד, ואתה אדוני עד מתי? שובה אדוני חלצה נפשי, הושיעני למען חסדך. כי אין במוות זכרך, בשאול מי יודה לך. יגעתי באנחותי, אסחה וכל לילה מיתתי, בדמעתי ארסי אמסה. אששה מכעס עיני, עתקה בכל צורריי. סורו ממני כל פועלי אבן, כי שמע אדוני כל בחיי, שמע אדוני תחינתי, אדוני תפילתי ייקח. יבושו ויבהלו מאוד כל אויביי, ישובו יבושו רגע.
For the leader, with instrumental music on the Sheminith, a psalm of David. O Lord, do not punish me in anger, do not chastise me in fury. Have mercy on me, O Lord, for I languish. Heal me, O Lord, for my bones shake with terror. My whole being is stricken with terror, while you, O Lord, oh, how long? O Lord, turn, rescue me, deliver me as befits your faithfulness. For there is no praise of you among the dead. In Sheol, who can acclaim you? I am weary with groaning. Every night I drench my bed. I melt my couch in tears. My eyes are wasted by vexation, worn out because of all my foes. Away from me, all you evildoers, for the Lord heeds the sound of my weeping. The Lord heeds my plea. The Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies will be frustrated and stricken with terror. They will turn back in an instant, frustrated.
Wow. All right, friends, and I want to welcome anybody, Susan Stein, who joined us for the first time today. Welcome to anybody. If there are any other new students in the class as we begin year 2 together? And I'm
Rabbi, I just want to offer that if anybody ever needs or wants coaching in Hebrew, I'm happy to assist.
Thank you, Yael. You have been such a generous coach to so many in the class. That's such a beautiful offer. Thank you. So we now really officially start year 2 together, and we can't imagine where we will be next year, what things we'll learn, what places we'll go. And I will be on sabbatical next year from October 1st for 6 months, so we're going to have to figure out what we will be doing exactly then. But stay tuned. As of tomorrow, Rabbi Rapport will be teaching for tomorrow and for next week. And then after that, and Harold will remind everybody next week, we're going to be on a 2-week break for Pesach. We'll begin again on April
12th, I think. Is it 12th?
April 12th. And on Tuesday, April 13th, I'm going to start my 8-week Yiddish literature class at, I think it's 5:15 to 6:30 every Tuesday evening, except skipping for Shavuot, blah, blah, blah. The information will go out next week. It's going to be a once-a-week class, Yiddish literature in translation, and we'll send out the syllabus next week with registration so you can see if you want to get the books. And it'll be Yiddish culture and literature. We're not doing Yiddish music. That's just a whole other huge topic. We can't do everything. But the first couple of sessions will really be setting up what Yiddish literature is. You don't need to know Yiddish to take the class. You just need to be interested. So that'll be starting that Tuesday evening. So we'll start with Psalm 19 on Monday morning, April 12th.
12th, I think it is, yes.
And I will still I'm going to LA tomorrow, putting on my hazmat suit and be there for Pesach, but I'll be leading services Friday night from LA, so I'll get to see everybody from there. So blessings to everybody. You have brought so much this year to me. The offerings you have written, composed, danced, drew, or painted, or lit on fire have all been deeply inspiring, moving, interesting, stimulating, provocative, reassuring, comforting to me. So blessings to everybody, and keep on creating holiness in the world. That's our job. Not to solve all the problems, just to make sure wherever we are, we create a little bit more holiness, we create a little bit more light, and that is our job. So I'm blessed to be in this work with all of you.
Rabbi,
everybody.
I'm going to play us out with a little bit of Adria, but first I would like to just give you the Hatima of the Traveler's Prayer.
Amen.
Adonai Yishmor Tzeitecha Uvoecha Me'ata Ve'ad Olam. May the Lord guard your going out and your return from now and for all time.
Thank you so much, Harold. Amen. Thank you. I'll send a picture of myself in my hazmat suit tomorrow.
All right. And here we have Adria to play us out.